Hello, everyone. Here's your weather hazard briefing for the last day of April here, and we continue with these warmer temperatures coming our direction through the middle of the week. The warmest days should be today and tomorrow across our area. Obviously, this is really going to start ramping up snowmelt and runoff, and even a few record highs are possible today and tomorrow and across our area at our various climate sites. The potential of rain is slim, not zero, but slim until we get to about Thursday. Each day we'll have a few showers and thunderstorms around the area. They won't be amounting to much, and certainly not a widespread issue through the at least first part of our week. Satellite shows our area of low pressure along the coast. High pressure is over us. By later today, high pressure will be centered generally right along the divide, maybe just east of the divide. And that high pressure, or that area of high pressure, is not really going anywhere. This low will continue to dig down the coast through the middle part of the week, set up shop along or just off the southern California coast. Another area of low pressure will set up well east of us into the plains and the Midwestern states. This blocking pattern is what's going to hold tight at least through Wednesday before we see it start breaking down. This low, at least a good chunk of it, is what's coming in later this week, while another area of low pressure basically reloads out into the Pacific. But this low itself, the one on the satellite, is the one that's going to finally kick up into our area later on in the week. Looking at our weather risk outlook, and you pretty much see it's the same. Our higher impacts will be across our higher elevations. And later in the week, especially depending on the timing of the rain and how much rain we get, we may even have to increase some of the impacts across our area. But you'll notice, it's the same. We've got increasing snowmelt and runoff. Any shower activity through the first part of the week is not going to produce a lot of precipitation, if anything, really, especially today. The moisture, the measurable rainfall is not coming until we get to Thursday and beyond there as well. So we've been talking about, we might see a few showers around the area going through at least today and tomorrow. This afternoon, here we are around 5 or 6 o'clock. This is probably nothing more than some mid-level cumulus clouds developing and maybe a sprinkle or at least some virga developing over the central mountains late this afternoon. And then in this evening, we see a little bit of activity trying to develop across the Magic Valley and lifting up through the central mountains, especially along the spine of the Sawtooths. That'll continue overnight into the early morning hours. Most of it stays over in western Idaho. Going into tomorrow, not much going on, and then late in the afternoon, we see a few showers and a few thunderstorms trying to develop again over the central mountains. Not much in the way of moisture tomorrow, and you also see a few pockets of showers and thunderstorms developing over the eastern and southeastern highlands. Those will lift off to the north and actually northwest through the day tomorrow, and that trend continues until that low gets in here later on this week. And that southerly flow, and especially tomorrow with some increasing winds, that's just going to keep pushing those temperatures up across our area. So going back to where our temperatures are going to be for today, generally 70s and 80s as you get over into the Magic Valley, mid to upper 80s expected across the area. And we've talked about the warmer temperatures coming, even low 70s for the Stanley Basin this afternoon. In terms of record highs, we'll probably fall short in Pocatello, but we're going to be fairly close over at Burley. 87 is the forecasted temperature, and that's actually the record for today. 81 to 82 in Chalice, and the record there today is 82. And Pokey's high is 86 out at the airport. So we're not going to get there. We're going to be fairly close, though. For tomorrow morning, pretty warm temperatures, except in the usual spots up around Island Park and in the southeast corner. And we're starting to see those lows finally pushing, even in the cold spots, to at or just above freezing for tomorrow morning. But the rest of us in the 40s and low 50s across the area. Even warmer tomorrow, especially with that southeast flow developing and some gusty winds. We're looking at mid-70s to mid-80s, near 90 across portions of the Magic Valley for tomorrow. Still some low 70s in the Stanley Basin, mid-80s up in Chalice, and in the 60s down around Bear Lake. And we talked about record highs tomorrow. Right now we're forecasting 85, 86 in Pocatello, and 85 is the record. Idaho Falls, 82. That would tie the record high for tomorrow if the forecast holds. The record in Burley tomorrow is 86, so 88 would break it if we get there tomorrow. Stanley, the record is 73, and the record in Chalice for tomorrow is 80 degrees. So definitely some pretty warm conditions across our area. Now, we back it off a little bit Tuesday. We may see this, especially there's some indications we might have a dry slot over us on Tuesday, more than maybe a little bit of cloud cover or a little bit of cooler temperatures headed our way. So we're going to watch the temperatures, but the trend, even if it cools off a couple degrees, it's still very warm across the area, and this continued warm weather is just keeping that snow melt going and going through the rest of the rest of this week, even when we start to cool down. Wednesday, pretty much the same weather-wise across the area, and then you can see on Thursday with the increasing clouds and the chance of showers and thunderstorms. Overnight lows come up a little bit. Afternoon high temperatures come down a little bit as well. But then, even though it's cooler, we've got to worry about that rain on top of snow. And speaking of where we might be in terms of how we're going to go with precipitation, these are just looking at general probabilities, not exact amounts or anything. This is several days out. We've got a ways to go. But if you look at 72 hours from Thursday through Saturday across the area, looking at the probability of a quarter inch, between a quarter and a half inch of moisture falling, the probabilities for a tenth to a quarter are 50% or higher across the entire area. So some of us will get at least some measurable precipitation. The higher elevations down around the Bear River Range, we're talking at over 80% probability of seeing a quarter inch to half an inch. Very similar probabilities for the higher elevations of the southeastern highlands, the eastern highlands, the Sawtooths, the higher elevations of the Lost River Range as well. But you get up around Chalice, Ellis, and May, and those probabilities of over a quarter of an inch are only 20%. You notice over a good chunk of the Snake Plain, we're talking 35, 45% probability of seeing a quarter inch or more in those areas. So we're going to bump this up to half an inch, and you'll notice that obviously the probabilities do go down, especially in the lower elevations, but you'll see them holding in some spots as well. But you'll notice up around Chalice and May, we're talking 10, 15% at most. Over the Snake Plain, most of these probabilities are around 5 to 15%, maybe around 20% out around craters. And in our higher elevations, we're talking about up to 50 to 60%. A little higher across the spine of the Sawtooth, 60 to 70%, also in the eastern highlands, and also down around the Bear River Range. So, and this is not necessarily going to be widespread steady rain. There's going to be some pockets of embedded heavier rain with this, some showers and thunderstorms, but just that snow rain on top of snow is just going to really increase the snow melt issues as we go through the later part of this week, even though we are cooling down. So looking at some of our waterways where we've got some of our advisories and warnings in effect, you'll notice that each day the Littlewood River above High 5 Creek continues to go up and down, but you'll notice the trend is higher, and that's going to continue as we get more snowmelt going in that part of central Idaho. It does look like the Bear River, especially at the Wyoming-Idaho border, eventually gets to minor flood stage by the middle of this week, maybe as early as tomorrow night, but certainly going into Tuesday and Wednesday. We're going to stay just below action stage at the Pocatello gauge, but at the Idaho state line, we're going to go into action stage as early as tomorrow and then kind of creep up towards the low end of minor stage by the end of this upcoming week. And looking at some of our other gauges, we've been showing you some of our gauges. We have the potential of looking at probability forecast along with the actual forecast. And this is the Big Wood River at Haley. And you'll notice that it's going into action stage right now. The trend will take it up to minor flooding and stage by Tuesday or so. And there's an 82% chance of the river staying at minor flood stage all the way through the end of this week. It might go down a little bit depending on the moisture that falls in the central mountains and how much falls even with the cooler temperatures coming our way. The Portneuf at Topaz is basically at action stage now. It will be entering minor flood stage here in the next 24 hours. And it's likely. You can see the entire graph there, all the probabilities keeping it above minor flood stage all the way through the end of the 10-day period. Looking at the Portneuf River at the Pocatello gauge, we're already in minor flooding. By the time we get towards later tomorrow into Tuesday, we should be in a moderate flood stage, and that is a given for that as well. Going later on to the week, you can see the probability shifting closer to the major flood stage, the lower end of major flood, and the probabilities are right around 60% that we could see major flood stage reached at the Pocatello gauge later on this week and through the rest of the 10-day period in this forecast. So certainly we've got a lot of warm weather, and even when it cools down, we've got moisture coming our direction, which is not going to help out the situation, it looks like. So once again, we've got warmer weather coming. That snowmelt and runoff is just going to continue. Record highs possible in some spots today and tomorrow. That rain on snow event still looks like it's coming for Thursday and heading into the end of the week and into the weekend. Have a great Sunday, and do stay safe out there, everyone.